And Zay, the last time I made a very big mistake. Very big mistake, right? I regret it. We did not cover Lomachenko and Devin Haney prior to the fight. We gave it no publicity. We barely talked about it at all amongst each
Correct.
other off the air. We
Correct.
definitely didn't talk about it on the air. We didn't do no predictions, previews. I don't know about you, but I wasn't expecting a lot from that fight. I was absolutely wrong. So
Mm-hmm.
far, best fight I saw all year. And I was like, I'm not going to make the same mistake again, right? Because this fight right here could have potential for sure. So who wins this Saturday between Josh Taylor versus Teófimo Lopez, super lightweight title showdown?
This is so tough. You know what? I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with my emotions here. I'm gonna go with Teófimo Lopez. My gut says Josh Taylor wins, but I'm gonna go with the heart. Teófimo Lopez. I think he has something to prove. He's not just fighting to get a title out there. He's fighting to prove to himself he still could fight amongst the best. He can still fight for titles and belts. And I think he's gonna try to go on this run that we're seeing Danny Garcia go on, where he's trying to go after these different belts and titles to show the confidence that he still could fight for the big time moments, for those big championships. And I think when you add Teofimo to this mix, he doesn't lack skill. That's not what we when we talk about Teofimo Lopez, that's not what we talk about in terms of him. It's about the mental. He's not mentally locked in to these fights, and we see it. We've seen it the last couple times. We've seen it against Cambosos. We've seen it against what's the last guy he fought? That it was
Sandor Martin.
Santa Martin. It was a decision, but he even said,
Yeah,
"No,
he
I still
lost
got
that.
it." Yeah, it wasn't a favorable decision amongst the crowd. I think he wants to prove something, that he still is that Teofimo Lopez that was undefeated, that was coming up in the ranks. I see a different type of hunger in these press conferences. I see a different type of tenacity when he's talking about fighting Josh Taylor and talking about taking his belt. It reminds me of when him and Devin Haney was going on it back and forth, where Devin Haney's pops and Teofimo Lopez dad, they both going back and forth talking about, I'll take your belts, when he used to talk about going after Davis and Garcia. That's the type of hunger I see in Teofimo in these interviews, and that's why, like, my heart goes, I want to see him win. I would be elated to watch him win this fight, because it brings back that confident fighter that was beating up everybody, that confident fighter that took it to Lomachenko for 6 to 7 rounds. This first 6, the last round in that fight. That's what my heart was saying. My gut, Josh Taylor takes him out of there in 7. Why? I just feel like Josh Taylor's going to do all the nuances, because he's not really pressured mentally. He's like, he wants to win the fight, but it's not about I need to win the fight. This is more Lopez, I need to. This is more Josh Taylor, like, I'm gonna just go out there and box how I normally do and get him out of there in 6 or 7. I just think that Josh Taylor is locked into just winning, and I think Teofimo is just, his mind is not in the ring, and I seen that the last couple fights. I don't know if it will change in this fight, because it seems like he's trying to prove himself. And anytime someone tries to prove to himself that he can still fight, they usually lose, because they're doing way too damn much. Because they're not focused on the fight. They're focused on everything else. Oh, what's my dad doing? What's my wife doing? What's my kids at? This and third. It's like, it's not locked into the ring. And that's why my gut is saying Taylor. My heart is saying Teofimo Lopez. My final prediction, Teofimo Lopez will win 11th round knockout.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same exact wave. My gut, literally, ironically, is telling me Josh Taylor, and my heart is telling me Teofimo Lopez. That's exactly how I feel, And right now, I feel like I want to follow my heart and go Teofimo Lopez. Now, I would say this, my biggest question here is, can both fighters get back on track? Clear, Teofimo Lopez is not the only fighter here that needs to get back on track. Josh Taylor as well needs to get back on track. Now, obviously, he didn't lose ever, but we all do know that Jack Catterwall and that fight over there was robbery in broad daylight. I mean, you talk about one of the most glaring robberies, in sports that, I have seen. That's right up there. They showed bank robbers how it's done. The judges did, right? And it was robbery. He should have lost that fight. So even though the record may say otherwise, we do know from the eye test that he has to get back on track. Theo has to get back on track. At one point in time, both of these fighters was at the top of their sport, the top of their division, rather. Teofimo Lopez was the first guy to decode the matrix. Josh Taylor had the fight that he won against Regis Prograis. So, he had the belts and everything, but now it was like both of these guys has lost a lot of value. And this is their fight to get their value to go back up and their stock to go back up so they can continue to participate in big fights going down the road. Does Teofimo Lopez have the mental fortitude to win this fight? Right? Because mentally, spiritually, I'm not sure where this cat is at. Right? The guy that went into Loma was a different guy that came, I won't say came out, but came into that Cambosis fight and left that Cambosis fight. It's a totally different guy mentally. Almost reminds me of Anthony Joshua in a way, from like the mental part of it not being there. Questioning himself, do I still got it after he gets helped by the judges in that Sandor Martin fight? Think about it like this. When he fought Lomachenko, he had the mental fortitude to win that fight. Loma dominated the second half of that fight. He dominated the first. Loma was gaining momentum and dominated the next 5 to 6 rounds. I would say 5 rounds of that fight. And he had the mental fortitude to go in that round 12 and take that fight away from Loma and ultimately take the belts away and move on being at the top of the sport because of that.
Mhm.
Can he go back and do that same thing against Josh Taylor when Josh Taylor is going to give him trouble because he is the more technical guy, the more tactical guy who knows how to jab and do a little bit more nuances than Lopez? Does he have the mental fortitude to overcome any adversity in the ring and go and take that fight away from Josh Taylor and land that devastating shot that will put Josh Taylor out? And I think that's what is going to have to happen. I don't think he will win a decision. I think if he wins, he's going to have to win by knockout. I'm going to ride with Brooklyn. I'm going to pick Teofimo Lopez to win, but I really do think this is going to be a very, very good fight because both of these guys need it, and nobody needs it more than Teofimo Lopez, and he has all the more to lose here, which is why I'm going with him. He loses this fight, then Top Rank is probably not going to have another fight out there for him. He's going to miss out on big fights. They're probably not going to know what to do with him, and they're probably going to release him. And that's how I see it. So he needs to win.
Yeah, he has to win. I think, yeah, no, it's gonna be a lot. Like I said, I just hope that his mental is in the fight, is in winning. And outside of anything beyond this fight, just this fight right here in particular, it just seems like he's always outside looking for something else out instead of the person in front of him. It's interesting because we'll talk about it down the line, like what happens moving forward. But Teofimo has a lot of opportunities after a win. Truth be told, a lot of opportunities after a win, but he needs to focus on this particular fight, one fight at a time, one round at a time. He can't look beyond it, and I think that is why, he's gonna win. I think, like I said, knockout in 11. I think he goes to 11th round, he knocks out Teofimo Lopez. In most fights, he tends to go downhill. Starts off hot, he loses gas little by little. I think if he wants to win this fight, he needs to have reverse engineering. You can start off slow, take off 6 to 12. That's when you have to take off. You got to take off later in the round. You try to take off too early, you're gonna gash yourself out, and you're gonna get White knocked out of there. It almost happened to Loma. Loma took him out.
That's a very good point.
11, 12 round. He almost took him out 11, 12 rounds. So hopefully, he needs to take the good. He needs to take the bad. Find a way
to pace himself.
You're gonna have lapses in a fight. It's gonna happen. If you're not a volume puncher, you're gonna have lapses in a fight. You're gonna get gashed. You're gonna get tired. So he needs to find a way to just put the back end. To start off the fights slow. Like just find ways to just read your opponent. What's his go-tos? What you want to do. Then from 6 to 12 or 5 to 12, however you want to go, you take off. That's when you start putting on a clinic on Josh Taylor. But that's the only way he's gonna have to try to win this fight. If he tries to start too early, Josh Taylor is gonna be patient. He's a champion now. He knows the championship rounds. He's gonna watch him. He's gonna know what he's trying to do, and then he's gonna take him apart from 6 to 12, knowing he's too tired to keep going. So hopefully he knows his mistakes by now.
I like that point about him starting early because you could say that was a case with Loma, won the first 5 rounds or 6 rounds, however you want to slice it. The same thing with Kambosos. He came forward, even though he got knocked down in the second round of that fight. He came out the gate like he was trying to pack Kambosos up in round one, and he lost a lot of steam down the stretch in that fight. That's the case with Lopez a lot. He starts off fast and he wears off. But another reason why I'm going with Lopez here, and I never thought about this point until literally right now, is the fact that in those fights that he won, like I'm talking about the big fights, like the Lomas, like he didn't underestimate his opponent. I think a lot of it too is that he underestimates his opposition. Kambosos, he really literally thought he was going to knock Kambosos out in 1 round. Like he literally saw him knock him out in 1 to 2 rounds, and he came out that way. He came out pressuring Kambosos with no regards, with no respect for what could come back. And the overhand right came back and knocked him down,
Correct.
and he got his reality check in the mail. I think he probably, not probably, he told you he underestimated Sandor Martin, even though he won the fight, he should have lost because
Mm-hmm.
of how much sparring sessions he did. He didn't do a lot. He did like
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks worth of it. That's it. So
Mm-hmm.
literally by him saying that he didn't take him seriously, he knows that Josh Taylor is a guy to take seriously. He knows what's at stake, and that's why I think we're going to get the best version of Teo like we did against Loma, because everything is at stake and he has something to fight for now, and he has something that he should not underestimate. I don't think he will. That's why I think he will win. And I got one more question. I actually got a question here. Teófimo Lopez a couple months ago, made a comment about black fighters. I wanted to know your thoughts about it, right? Because you know, it does have relevance in a way. This is my last fight, quote, on ESPN. If they want the black fighters, they can have them, they can keep them. Yeah, if you lose, ESPN, will do this, and you can keep the black fighters, da da da, this, that, and the third. So what do you think about those comments? Do you think it's out of context that people took it, or do you think it was a poor choice of words?
I mean, I think it's poor choice of words. What he said, man. I just think it was a poor choice of words. I know he's in the ring. I think at the time he was in the ring when he said it. Right? Was it in an interview? Or was it in the ring? He said.
I know he said something outside the ring, in the ring, and I know he said something outside the ring because somebody sent me a video when he was going on a rant. So I think he must have doubled up on it.
It's a poor choice of words for Teofimo Lopez. And I just think that has no bearing on what the heck is going. Like he needs to stop doing saying things in that nature. I think that's what first and foremost. You need to winning fights or not winning fights, undefeated not undefeated. You need to stop saying, oh, they can keep the black fighters. You don't make it a race thing. One, first and foremost, every boxer puts in the work and pain to get to where they get to. Rather you're marketable, rather you win fights, rather you know how to sell tickets. Every fighter puts in the pain and work to get to where they get to. And knowing that he's a fighter who had to put in a lot of work and pain to even debut in Barclays and get his name brought up from Brooklyn. Not a lot of Brooklyn fighters become where at that stature that he's at currently. Like a big face in boxing, a big face in boxing, a name. And I think for him to say something like that is really ignorant. I think he needs just a reality check himself, to check himself in the mirror and understand what he just said. Especially coming from the background he's coming from to get into the boxing world as a bigger name in boxing. I don't like it. I think it's a poor choice of words. And even if you look deep into it and I try to understand what he's talking about, it's still a horrible choice of words because a lot of people put in the work. And I just think he needs a better group of people around him that's feeding him this information. I don't think he just made that decision conclusively by himself. I think there's people around him that's also fueling the fire, but saying things in that nature. I know his dad had a lot of words to say back in the past. I haven't heard from him since, but it's just disgusting that is the thought that he has.
About this is my last fight on ESPN. I think if he loses Saturday, you don't even have to leave ESPN. ESPN will drop it like a hot tomato. You know what I'm saying? If he loses. But I think it goes back to the villain that Lopez is. It is a poor choice of words. Boxing does not discriminate. And I said it last week. The business of boxing does not discriminate, right? If you are marketable and you have elite skills, then they're going to put money behind you. And if they put money behind you, you're going to get nods at the end of scorecards, right? Because they're going to give you the nod, as we saw with Haney, right? So boxing has no race to it. Everybody, I won't say play the sport of boxing. You can't play boxing, but everybody takes part in boxing, black, yellow, green, and everybody has an equal opportunity. You have to create that opportunity for yourself. And you lost to Camboso, so you shouldn't be, complaining about race because you was at the top of the food chain at one point. You decided to be inactive. You decided to underestimate Cambosos. And I understand you may have had a lot of medical complications, but if that's the case, then stick with that story. Don't try to play the two double face game. Oh, I almost died if you hit me in the right spot, but yeah, I won the fight, right? Be honest, stick with your guns. And I think, Lopez is being boxing's villain. And you can say the same thing about Josh Taylor. Won that fight against Jack Catterall when he clearly lost and didn't give him his immediate rematch like he promised to. Had a injury in camp, which I'm not buying. I'm not selling. This happens all the time in boxing. When a fighter is about to receive a big money fight, he doesn't want to risk a fight that could potentially jeopardize his money and everything that's at stake. Of course, injury is going to happen all of a sudden. I'm not buying it. I'm not selling it. Both of these guys are villains, right? They're saying, I'm going to put you in an ambulance. I'm going to kill you.
Yeah,
but who's going to be the villain that wins Saturday? We'll find out.
Yeah, it's going to be the battle of the bulls.
Yeah, literally.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, or leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.